How do you buy crystal beads at a gem show, wholesale or retail? And how do you find where these shows are? Let me get into it in this video. I'm going to help you out because it's my favorite place to buy crystal beads. I'm going to give you all the ins and outs. Now, you are new here. I'm Bella from Bella Luna Crystals. I have been making crystal bracelets and shopping for crystal beads at gem fairs since the 1900s. Okay, legit 1900s. I have been making crystal bracelets since I was a teenager and going to gem shows since I was a teenager over 20 years ago. Okay. All right. So I'm going to pass on my knowledge to you because it's my favorite place to shop for beads. And I haven't been able to do it in so long because of what happened in 2020, 2021, 2022 time period. We all know what happened. A lot of the gem shows got canceled. So they're back. They're all back in action, and I am back in action too, buying up beads. Now, my business initially was started in 2014, and we were strictly jewelry, but I've always done like side hustles where I've sold crystal jewelry prior to that, but officially a business in 14, and I just did jewelry bracelets, all custom. So I did have a supplier I worked with at the time. They unfortunately went out of business during the events of 2020, and did not go back into business, unfortunately. So I was on the hunt at my most recent gem show to try to find a new bead supplier, and we achieved it. I did. So I'm going to go through how it works, how you find them. I'll give you my tips. So let's get into it. All right. Alrighty. So number one thing, we got to find these fairs. Where are these fairs? Now, gem fairs or gem shows, anyone can go in. It's general public, and it's going to be people who do retail. So someone like me, I do retail sales. So I'm going to shop as a wholesale buyer. So it's open to wholesale buyers, most of them, and the general public. Most of these events will have a period where there's maybe 2 hours or 3 hours or a day before it's open to the general public, where it is open to wholesale buyers only. So you want to make sure that once you've found the event, you check it out. If you are going to be shopping wholesale, if you're the general public, then just go the day up. And a lot of times for these events too, you can find coupons locally. If you Google certain brands like the Gem Fair brand that does the western side of the US that hosts a bunch of fairs, they have a thing where you can go on their website, and I think you get like a free entrance for one person if you join their email list or something like that. I get in free because I shop wholesale. So if you are buying from a wholesale seller, most of these events are going to let you in for free. So I get in for free at most that I have gone to. The next place that are really, really good to attend in terms of gem shows are your local mineral societies. So the mineral society near me, it's Roseville is the closest one. The Sacramento one, they have one. I just keep missing their events, but I was able to go to the Roseville show last year, and it was pretty legit. It was pretty good for a local mineral society. So I can't wait to go again in the fall. I'll absolutely be going back there. Now, the best place to find these shows is literally Google. I'm honest with you. You just got to Google your county, your city, a gem show, gem fair, mineral society, mineral fair, or Facebook. Honestly, a lot of them are on Facebook too. I know a lot of my followers don't use Facebook, but if you just pop in there for the events, you can usually find them. And most of them are listed at least 6 months in advance, so you can plan when you want to attend. And I find that there is usually some type of gem show near generally a larger city, but usually within an hour to 2 hours of someone, there will be something. You can plan ahead. Usually you know about 6 months in advance. So that's the best way to find where the gem shows are. Now, the next step here, if you are shopping retail, so you're a retail shopper, meaning that you don't have a reseller permit, you're just going to enjoy and shop and maybe get some deals, you would just be considered the general public. And so you'd be able to go in when they have their general public times. You just go in. If you bring cash, you're probably going to get a better deal. But most of these sellers will take credit cards, Venmo, PayPal, all that kind of stuff. But you're going to get a better deal with cash, just tell you right now. Especially if you don't have a resale permit, but maybe you just have like a little side hobby. It's not like an official business where you make bracelets or necklaces and you sell them, and it's just a couple here and there on Etsy, and you don't have a resale permit. A lot of jewelry makers don't have resale permits. You could probably still get a good deal if you had cash and you bought a large quantity. So let's say you went to a bead table, you spent $350. That seller might give you a deal even if you don't have a resale permit. Now, if you want to shop the wholesale pricing, most fairs are going to have you pre-register either online before the event, or you need to show up the day of the event and they will have you register before you enter into the event. The Gem Fair brand, which again does the western side of the US, for them, the ones that I have been to, you have to register the day that you go. They give you a little sticker that says wholesale buyer, and then people see the sticker and they know that you're there to shop wholesale. Not all of the vendors do wholesale pricing, but in my experience, almost all do. But there's a handful that are just there to do retail sales and don't offer wholesale pricing, but most do. So make sure you register, you go in. Now, when you go in, if you are going to be shopping wholesale as a wholesale buyer, make sure you have a copy of your seller's permit with you the entire time and your ID. Some places will ask for your ID and your seller's permit. So you want to make sure you have both. Now that you're in the gem show, you found it, you're in it. I like to do a once-over. So I like to do a once-over, look at the minerals, kind of see how the sellers are engaging with other people, if they look friendly, if they look like they're approachable. And I'll do a once-over and make notes about who I want to revisit, kind of glance at the products, but not look super in-depth at them. And then I go back for my second loop and I start purchasing things. Like I've made a mental note of what I want to get. So I recommend doing that if you are shopping as a wholesale buyer, because it's very easy to spend a lot of money. So that's my little tip. Now, if you are shopping as a retail shopper and you want to go straight for the beads, there's usually several people selling crystal beads. You want to find out which ones seem like they have the most authentic specimens. And how do you do that? You follow me on TikTok, you follow me on YouTube, because I do cover how to spot fakes. But if you are new to this, the easiest thing that you can do is when you're having the thought that you want to go to a gem show to buy crystal beads, you should have a plan of what crystal beads you want. So do I want citrine? Do I want amethyst? Do I want black tourmaline? And then do a little Google research, search on my TikTok. My YouTube, I'm going to be bringing the TikTok videos here so that there's more base for you to search. So you want to have a list of what you're going for and a general content of how do I spot fakes for those. Just going and be saying, I'm going to get what jumps out at me is not a terrible thing to do, but it is a way to unfortunately end up with potentially deceptive minerals. So I usually don't recommend buying minerals if you don't know what it is. If you are not 100% sure that it is authentic, unless you're just buying it for you and it's just for a fun bracelet, like if it doesn't matter to you, it doesn't matter to you, it's cool. But if you are going to be reselling the jewelry you make with the beads, I won't. And I had people tell me too on my TikTok and Instagram, they're like, I went to a gem show and I bought all these beads and come to find out they were all dyed and the seller told me they were authentic. Okay. Just because it's at the gem show does not mean it's authentic. Even at the Tucson Gem Show, the biggest gem show globally, every year I will see my colleagues, other crystal shops posting videos of fakes they see at Tucson being sold as authentic specimens. So just because they're at a gem show doesn't mean it's authentic. You still need to have your eyes ready and know how to spot the fakes. That's why I think it's so important that you know what you're going for. You've already pre-educated yourself on what the common fakes look like so that you make sure you're getting authentic specimens that you can then sell to your customers. Now, what are some common alterations done to beads? Some of the common ones are dyeing. So dyeing quartz beads yellow. It's very easy to dye quartz, and you can usually note that with a jeweler's loupe. If you look up close at any inclusions in the mineral, you might see that there's some color saturation around specifically inclusions, and that's typically an indication. I say typically because it's not always, okay? It's typically an indication that the mineral perhaps might be dyed. Now, you might say, well, I'm going to soak it in acetone, and that'll tell me if it's dyed. That doesn't always work because we don't know what type of polish was used on the exterior of the bead. You might soak it for a day and nothing happens. You might soak it for 2 days, and all of a sudden all the color's off. So there really isn't a clear science because we would have to know what type of polish variety was used, because the polish will typically surround the dye in terms of a polished bead specimen. The next treatment that happens is irradiation or heat treatment. So when crystals are irradiated, it can enhance the color. And this is standard practice in a lot of minerals. So it's really hard to tell. There literally is no way that you can tell at the gem show if it has been irradiated or not. You just have to trust the supplier on that one. But unfortunately, no way to tell. Smoky quartz is very often irradiated. So I actually have some smoky quartz beads. I bought them with the assumption that they were most likely irradiated and enhanced because they were too perfect. Okay. That is the next thing. If they are too perfect and they are $10, the math is not mathing. Beads can get really expensive when we start talking about very rare specimens. Seeing natural, high clarity, smoky beads that are almost perfect. And we're seeing all this color symmetry too. So on my smoky bracelet here, there is not a variation in color patterning. This is a pretty clear indicator that this has been altered. Now I've scratch tested this and I did crack open a bead when I purchased them because I got trust issues and did an acetone test. And when you do acetone, you want to use 100% pure acetone, not necessarily nail polish remover. Those tend to have additives in them and not be as strong, but you still can buy 100% acetone for like fake nails and things removal at like Target and Walmart and all that. So it's got to be 100% if you're going to try that. So I was able to indicate they weren't dyed, but they are most likely irradiated and they did scratch like quartz. So I knew that was authentic. But normally I like to have a trusted supplier that I shop with, so I don't have to be testing everything when it comes in. But when I was in between bead suppliers, I did. The other thing that can be common with crystal beads that we don't really deal with that often in the full-size mineral world. I mean, there are smelt quartz towers and things, but it's not a common practice for a deceptive mineral. Like people aren't making smelt quartz green aventurine and selling them. It's just not a thing. But with beads that are actually glass, it is more common, not common in general, but more common than like full-size specimens. So what you can do is you can always try to crack one open and see if it will scratch glass. If it, depending on the mineral you have, actually that's not a great advice because it will work for quartz, but for other minerals, you can do a Mohs hardness test. You can look up the mineral's hardness and you can perform that test. In my Amazon storefront, I do have a link to a Mohs hardness kit where it has all the pieces that you need to do that. And sometimes if I'm working with a new supplier, I will inspect at least one bead and destroy or sacrifice a bead just to make sure that I am going to be putting out an authentic product into my shop because that integrity is very important to me. And so it is a lot. So I will lose at least one bead when I'm working with a new supplier, or if I'm like, my intuition is telling me, this seems off. I do trust my intuition and I will test it. So that's one of the most key pieces. Again, the people that make mistakes that go in and they're like, oh, these are pretty. I've never heard of this specimen before. What is this specimen? And then the seller tells you and you go Google it and come to find out it's man-made. Or I believe someone in one of my community members said that they had purchased some, they were dyed and it was dyeing people's wrists, the color when the dye came off. So you still have to be vigilant when you are shopping with these people, okay? Just because they are wholesale sellers does not mean they are selling 100% true, authentic specimens. It's not to say that they're deceptive. They just might not be educated enough on the subject to know they are reselling deceptive specimens. So again, educate yourself is key before you even get to the gem show and having a plan of attack. What do I want to look for? Now, this is more in terms of beads because we can kind of make a list of what beads we are looking for. When it comes to like full-size minerals, I'll do another video on full-size minerals and wholesale shopping. It's going to be different. So this video is specific to bead shopping. Now, once you've found your supplier, chat them up. Let's be friends. Where are you located? Do you do mail order? What do you know about the citrine beads? Are these heated or dyed? Can you tell me? Do you know if these are heated or dyed? Can you tell me how you know they're not? Can you tell me more about them? And there's a way you can ask this without being like 20 questions. Like, tell me more about them. Tell me what you know about these. How do you know they're real? Are you sure they're real? How do you know they're real? So I work it into a conversation where I'm just chatting with the person. Oh, how long have you been wholesaling beads for? Oh, that's wonderful. Tell me about you. Are you local? And how do you check your citrine for authenticity. Like, how do you know? And then they might explain to me how they know. And I know because I already know if they're telling me the truth or if they are being deceptive. Some things that really get people at gem shows, though, and I want to show you all, are the string colors, okay? So especially in a mineral like citrine, it's very common to see orange as the standard color put with the beads because it's going to make them appear more yellow. But if they are appearing really, really bright yellow, they are most likely non-authentic. Citrine beads tend to be more of a pale yellow color. If they are bright orange or neon yellow, the whole thing or all of them are a very similar color, they're most likely fake. But you will still see sellers. This is a selling feature. They're going to use orange on it to make it look brighter, to make it look like it is more yellow. It's not a bad thing, but it's just so you know that when you transfer this onto maybe a wire or a cord, depending on how you're going to make the bracelet, they're not going to look as yellow. Most people aren't fans of the bright orange string on their bracelets, especially if you're making higher end pieces. So some of the beads I use are a little more higher end, like Super 7, more expensive. Your citrine, more expensive. Now, if you're enjoying this video so far, make sure you hit that like button and give me a follow. Check out my Patreon. They got this video first. They got it early. I also have a Patreon tier for crystal sellers. So it's all down below in the comments. Now let's get back into it. Now, this is important to note because this is what I think a lot of newbies don't realize. When you go to the gem show, I'm going to put these little citrine guys together. The seller will hand you like a big stack like this, and they'll be all the same mineral. I'm just going to show you for reference here. They'll hand you a big stack of one mineral, and then they'll tell you the pricing, and they'll say $10. It's not $10 for all these strands. What they're meaning is it's $10 per strand, okay? Common confusion. I see people getting upset with sellers that don't know. So now you know. You're an insider now. It's for one strand. They say, oh, it's $10, and they hand you this. It's for this one, okay? Per strand. Really important. Making crystal bracelets is a super fun hobby. It's something I have done for years. I love making them. I don't make a lot of necklaces, but I do think they're really fun as well. And gem shows are a great place to not only meet potential long-term people that you can shop with, retail or wholesale, but also just to enjoy. I mean, shop the pretty crystals, look at the pretty crystals, see all the beautiful strands of crystals, and enjoy. If you want to learn more about crystals or you have more questions about gem shows, let me know what your questions are in the comments. I will probably turn it into a video. I've got a list right now, but I'm always looking to add to the list. If you have questions about shopping gem shows in general, how do you start shopping wholesale? How does that work? All those things I can cover. I am Bella from Bella Luna Crystals, and have a beautiful day. Hit that like button and subscribe.